When my parents sold the family cabin, they didn't even tell me. I found out through a Facebook post, my sisters smiling in front of it with a caption, "Our wedding gift. Thanks, Mom and Dad." When I asked what happened to my share, my mom laughed and said, "You really think you earned anything?" Then rolled her eyes. "She's starting a real life. You're just wasting space." My dad added, "What would you even do with it? Turn it into one of your little projects and screw it up like everything else." They talked about me like I was a joke. I just said, "Got it. Thanks for clearing that up." 2 months later, I took one step that blew it all wide open. Now they're leaving voicemails every day. "Please talk to us. We didn't mean it like that." Okay, I usually lurk, but this whole thing has just been chewing at me and I need to get it out somewhere. If you've ever wondered how far parents will go to pick favorites, buckle up. I'll try to keep this not too rambly, but honestly, I'm still kind of seeing red, so if this gets messy, sorry in advance. So here's the thing. My family has this old place, a cabin. Nothing fancy, but it's been in the family since before I was born. Out by this lake that's like a 45 minutes drive from the city. I grew up there every summer, my sister Danielle and me, fishing, playing cards, endless Monopoly games where someone always quit mid-board. For context, Danielle's a couple years younger. Always the golden child, mostly because she played by the rules. I never did. Parents have always made it weirdly clear they respect people who follow the path. I never really fit that mold. I don't think I'm some rebel or anything, but I like to do my own thing. Anyway, fast forward to now. I moved out years ago. I don't go back home much. Family group chat died like 2 years ago, except for the occasional forwarded meme from my dad. I guess I always felt a bit like the odd one out, but whatever, right? I've got my own life. Still, the cabin always felt like Switzerland, neutral territory, you know? It's not like it's a mansion or anything, but it's got all this history. My granddad built the deck himself. My mom's obsessed with her dumb collection of weird mugs that nobody's allowed to use. It always felt like the one thing that really belonged to both of us. Even as the family got more distant, the weirdness started about 2 months ago. Random Saturday. I'm on my phone just doom scroll. Someone I barely talk to anymore tags me in this Facebook thing. I almost ignore it, but I click and it's a photo of Danielle standing in front of the cabin all done up like she's at some influencer photo shoot. The caption is the bit that actually made me stop. "Our wedding gift. Thanks, Mom and Dad." Took me a full minute to process that. Like, wedding gift? What wedding gift? Danielle's been engaged for a while, but nobody said anything about the cabin. I text her, "Get left on read." I figure, okay, maybe it's just a weird caption, but then I see all these comments from her friends congratulating her on getting the cabin, talking about how lucky she is to start her new life in such a special place. My stomach just drops. I scroll. And there's my mom chiming in saying how happy they are to give Danielle this fresh start. So, that's how I found out the cabin's gone. Not from my parents, not from Danielle, not even in a family chat. Just a Facebook post public for everyone but me. Obviously, I call my mom. She doesn't pick up. I try my dad. He sends me straight to voicemail. I text again. Nothing. At this point, I'm not even angry, just confused. Like, maybe there's some explanation. Maybe they're just letting her use it for the wedding or something. Nope. 3 days later, my mom finally calls. It's not even a proper conversation. She's weirdly chipper, like nothing's happened. I ask her, "So, what's going on with the cabin? Did you sell it to Danielle?" She laughs. Actually, laughs and goes, "So, you really think you'd get anything from it?" Then she sighed like I'm a kid who doesn't get how the world works and says, "Danielle's starting a real life and I'm just wasting space. What would I even do with it? Turn it into one of your little projects and screw it up like everything else." My dad chimes in. He's on speaker. Says if it had been up to him, they would have sold it years ago. At least now it's going to someone who will appreciate it. I try to ask like, what about my share? Didn't Granddad say it was supposed to be split? Mom just rolls her eyes audible over the phone and says, "I haven't earned anything. Danielle deserves it because she listens. She's not off chasing stupid ideas." My dad starts into this whole thing about how I never finish anything, how I just let it rot. I try to say that's not true. I did all that work on the deck last year, but he talks over me. Says that doesn't count. It's just busy work. At this point, I say, fine. Thanks for clearing that up. She says, don't be dramatic. And hangs up. I just sat there for a minute, not sure what I expected, but that wasn't it. I've always known they saw me as the lost cause. But hearing it that bluntly, like I'm just in the way, kind of hit different. Not in a self-pity way, just IDK. It's like I wasn't even in the conversation. They talked about me in the third person, like I wasn't there, like I was this annoying ex-friend they had to deal with because I showed up at Thanksgiving sometimes. No mention of my name in the Facebook post either, just erased. So I messaged Danielle again, ask if she knew I wasn't told. She finally answers. Super short, says our parents handled everything. She assumed I didn't care, then says she's busy with wedding stuff and leaves it at that. I reply asking if she actually owns it now or if it's just for the wedding. She goes silent again. I try calling my dad once more. He actually picks up but immediately starts off with this thing about how I should be happy for Danielle. How I'd just bring drama if I was involved. He says, if I start poking around, it'll just ruin her chance at happiness. I say, I just want to know what happened. And he snaps back, says, don't call again unless it's important. Then he hangs up. At this point, I'm just done. I text my mom. Tell her I get it. I'm out. She sends back a thumbs up. Not even a word, just the emoji. Rest of that week was a blur. I tried not to think about it, but then little stuff kept popping up. My landlord mentioned someone tried to call about my old address, saying they were family and needed info. The family group chat dead silence except for Danielle's wedding updates. Not a single mention of the cabin from anyone else, like it just disappeared. Extended family is either clueless or pretending not to know. I started running through old emails trying to remember if there was ever any paperwork about the cabin. I know my granddad said something years ago about keeping it in the family, but I never saw anything official. I asked my aunt about it. She lives out in another state. We're not super close. And she just said, oh, I thought your parents would talk to you about that. And then she changed the subject. Nobody wants to get involved. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Family cabin just gone. Not a word until it's posted all over Facebook. Parents act like I'm some leech for even asking about it. Danielle's getting her fresh start. And I'm apparently just background noise. I'm not the type to just eat this and move on. I don't care if they want to play favorites, but you don't get to pretend I don't exist. You don't get to erase me because I don't fit your idea of success. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm not letting them get away with this. I'm not about to let them just smile for Facebook and act like I was never part of the family. Next time I see Danielle, I'm not staying quiet. And my parents can keep ignoring my calls, but they're going to have to deal with me one way or another. Update 1. So, here's part 2, I guess. Appreciate the DMs and comments last time. Even the ones telling me to just move on or whatever. That's not happening. If you missed the start, my parents gave the family cabin to my sister Danielle as a wedding gift. Didn't even tell me I found out through Facebook. And then they basically said I never earned anything and acted like I was an inconvenience. I left it at thanks for clearing that up, but obviously I wasn't just going to let it go. Weirdest thing is how totally normal everything looked after. Like my parents kept posting dad jokes and food pics on Facebook, acting like nothing happened. Danielle's feed was just wedding countdowns, random throwback shots of her at the lake as a kid. Not a single mention of nobody in the family group chat said a damn thing. Even my aunt, who used to at least send a Christmas meme, stopped messaging. It was almost like they'd rehearsed it. Everyone pretending I was just background noise. So, I started poking around. Not like detective level, but enough to see what was actually going on. I remembered my granddad making a big deal that the cabin was for the family, not just one person. He died years ago, but I figured there had to be some record. I started with old emails, texts, even went back through some paper files I still had in a box. Nothing super official, just old group emails where Granddad CC'd everyone about repairs. And a couple of times he'd mentioned the trust. I barely remembered it, but that's what stuck out. He said the cabin was in a family trust meant to be kept for all the kids, not just passed down to one. I Googled a bunch of stuff about property trusts, then found the county assessor's website. Not exactly fun, but I tracked down the deed. Turns out, yeah, my parents were trustees, but technically everything was supposed to benefit the family. There was literally a clause about equal access and benefit. That made my blood boil a bit more because it wasn't like they sold their own house or something. It was supposed to be for both of us. I asked my aunt about it again, and she just said I should talk to my parents. She wasn't getting involved. My cousin Philip, who I see sometimes at the holidays, texted me asking if I was really pissed about the cabin thing. So clearly people were talking, just not to me. I told him, yeah, obviously. And he just said, that sucks, but not much you can do. And then changed the subject. So now I'm getting pissed. Not just at my parents, but at the whole family for acting like this is normal. I took a screenshot of Danielle's Facebook post and sent it to the family group chat. No comment, just the pic. I didn't get a single reply for 2 days. Finally, my mom messages me privately. Says I'm being immature, that it's Danielle's time, and I should let her enjoy it. I said, you could have at least told me. She ignores that and says, if I want to be included in the future, I need to stop causing trouble. I reply, so, the only way I get to be family is if I shut up and smile about you giving away the one thing Granddad wanted us to share. She leaves me on read. Around that time, I run into my dad at the grocery. He's buying steaks. I'm in the next aisle. He sees me and sighs like I'm a headache. I ask him quietly, why didn't you talk to me about the cabin? He just shrugs, says, you never really cared anyway, and you just start one of your projects and leave the place a mess. I say, I did most of the deck repairs last year, remember? He says, you just wanted to play with tools, not actually contribute. I tell him, you could have at least given me a chance. He goes, we did what we thought was best for the family. Danielle deserves a fresh start, and you just fight us on everything. I tell him, you know this isn't right. And he literally rolls his eyes and walks away with his cart. I just stand there barely believing it. I tried to talk to Danielle in person after that. I messaged her, said I wanted to clear the air. She said she was super busy but could do coffee. So we met at this place near her apartment, and right away she was on her phone barely looking up. I asked her, did you know they didn't tell me? She sighs, says, I assumed you knew. Mom and Dad handled everything and I don't want drama before the wedding. I ask, do you even care that you basically took the only thing we had from Granddad? She says, you never wanted to settle down. You said you'd never use it anyway, and Mom said you were fine with it. I say, I never said that. And she shrugs, says, well, it's done now. I push my chair back a little too hard, stand up, and she just looks back down at her phone. I leave without saying bye. Over the next week, my mom sends me a long message about family unity, how I should support Danielle's new chapter. She says, if you keep this up, you won't be invited to the wedding. I screenshot that and send it back to her. No text. So now it's awkward as hell. I hear through Philip that some of the older relatives are asking questions because my granddad's brother apparently saw my screenshot and asked why I never got a say. My mom texts me furious, says I'm making her look bad and airing private family matters. I say, if you wanted it private, you shouldn't have put it all over Facebook. She sends back a thumbs up again. I decide screw it. I'm not keeping quiet. I start CCing some of the extended family in email asking if anyone knows more about the trust, mostly silence. But one uncle, Stanley, who's always been weirdly into legal stuff, says he remembers some conditions on the trust, but doesn't have the paperwork. He says, if I want to see it, I'll have to ask my parents directly for the docs. I email my mom and dad asking for copies. No reply. So, I show up at my parents' place. I don't call ahead. My dad opens the door, looks surprised, then annoyed. I say, I want to see the trust paperwork now. He says, you're not coming it. Not if you're going to start a fight. I step past him anyway and he puts a hand on my shoulder to stop me. I push it off. My mom yells from the kitchen, says, you're being ridiculous. Get out. I say, Not until I see the papers. My dad steps in front of me and blocks the hallway. I tell him, "You can't just cut me out and pretend it's all fine." My mom slams a cupboard and says, "We did what we had to do. Danielle is actually building a life, not just wasting time on projects." I snap. "So what? I don't count." She just says, "You made your choices. Live with them." I leave. Slam the door on my way out, not sure if I'm going to get the cops called on me. I drive around for an hour just blasting music, thinking about how this all got so screwed. I keep replaying the same lines in my head like, how was I always the one who didn't deserve things just because I didn't do the 9 to 5 marry young buy a house routine like Danielle? My parents always acted like the only way to be successful was to copy their exact playbook. I guess me doing things my own way was just proof to them that I'd never grow up. The next day, Danielle texts me, says, "Why are you making everything so hard? Just let it go. This is supposed to be a happy time." I reply, "You don't get to erase me just because I'm inconvenient." She blocks me. Now, my roommate is asking what's up because I've been slamming doors and not really talking. I tell him a bit and he goes, "Dude, that's so messed up. You got to do something." I agree, but I'm not sure what yet. But I know I'm not just letting them get away with it. I start looking up more about trusts, property transfers, all that. I find out there's a way to force an accounting of how the trust was handled, but I'd need actual proof. I figure if I can't get the papers, maybe I can at least make enough noise that they have to answer. So that's where I'm at. Families pretending I don't exist. Danielle's planning her wedding at the cabin. Parents are acting like I'm just this embarrassing footnote. But now, some of the extended family is starting to ask questions, and I'm not backing down. They want to erase me, but I'm louder than they remember. Next move is going to be theirs, but I'm not waiting around for an invite. I'm just getting started. Update 2. So, I guess this is the part where everyone expects an update to be like, I went to therapy and learned to forgive or whatever. If you think I was just going to let them trash me and get away with it, you don't know me at all. If you haven't read the earlier posts, parents gifted the family cabin to my sister Danielle as a wedding present. Skip telling me, publicly acted like I didn't exist, then doubled down when I called them out. They basically told me I'd never earned anything because I didn't live life their way. I poked around, found out the cabin was supposed to be for both kids, not just Princess Danielle. But nobody in the family wanted to get involved or even admit it. So here's what happened next. First weird thing, Danielle starts posting a bunch of throwbacks of her cabin, but keeps turning off comments on anything I tag myself in. Mom's suddenly all about posting inspirational quotes about forgiveness and family unity. Super subtle, right? I get a couple DMs from cousins asking what's going on, and I just tell them straight up, no drama, just the facts. I can tell some of them don't want to pick sides, but at least a couple start liking my posts about family fairness. Not much, but enough to know people are whispering. Then, out of nowhere, I get a letter at my apartment from the county, like actual mail. It's a notice about maintenance cost disclosures on the cabin property. I didn't even know I was listed anywhere. Turns out my name was still on some old paperwork from when I helped with repairs. There's receipts and stuff. My granddad kept everything. So, I dig through my old emails and find a chain from 3 summers ago where I literally paid for materials and covered a bunch of the taxes when my dad forgot. I print everything out, start a file, and call the county office, not to play lawyer, but to ask what my options are since I contributed to maintenance and taxes. They say if I have records, I can file a claim for reimbursement or demand an accounting of the trust because I'm technically a beneficiary. So, I start the paperwork. Takes a few days, but I file a formal request for a full financial accounting of the trust and reimbursement for my share of expenses. I CC Danielle and her fiancé. And because I'm not dumb, I also send copies to the aunt and uncle who were closest with Granddad. I attach the receipts, the emails, and the clause I found about equal benefit. No threats, no drama, just facts. This is where things get spicy. Danielle's fiancé's parents, who are super uptight, suddenly message me asking if there's legal trouble about the wedding gift. I say, ask my parents. I'm just asking for what Granddad want. Next thing I know, the wedding group chat, Yes, I was still in it. LMAO is blowing up with side messages and Danielle's friends wondering why there's property drama. I just reply with my usual ask my parents. My mom calls me, doesn't even say hi, just launches into how I'm ruining Danielle's big moment and how I always have to make everything about myself. I say, you did this, not me. You could have just talked to me like an adult. She says, you're just jealous. You'll never have what Danielle has. I tell her, I don't want what she has. I want what I'm owed. And I'm not backing down. She hangs up. 5 minutes later, Dad texts me, says, you're making a fool of yourself. Just drop it before you embarrass everyone. I tell him, should have thought of that before you gave away something that wasn't yours. He leaves me on read. Danielle tries to call. I answer. She's crying. Says, why are you doing this? I just want to have a nice wedding. Why can't you let me be happy? I tell her, you're not a kid anymore. You don't get to play innocent while you take the one thing we both had. She says, Mom told me you said you didn't care. I tell her, you never even asked. She starts yelling. I start yelling. She calls me selfish. I tell her to grow up. She hangs up. Now the group chat is dead. I start getting texts from random relatives, mostly, can you just let it go for the sake of family? I tell them, ask my parents. I'm not the problem. My cousin Philip texts me, says, I get why you're mad, but isn't this going to just make everyone hate you? I say, they already do. What's the difference? Meanwhile, I request a property tax reassessment on the cabin. I know that'll jack up the annual bill, especially since Danielle just got it transferred as a gift. So, now she's on the hook for the full value, not the old family rate. I also call the utility companies and ask for an audit of all past expenses since my name was on the account for years. I send Danielle an invoice for half of the repairs and taxes I paid out of pocket with CC to her fiancé and his parents. I'm not bluffing. I have receipts for everything. Lumber, shingles, paint. The dumb new fridge Dad made me split. My dad shows up at my apartment, bangs on the door. I open it a crack. He tries to push in. I block him. He says, you need to stop. You're turning everyone against us. I say, I'm not doing anything. You didn't start. He tries to get in my face. I shove his hand off my door frame. He starts yelling. Says, you're not getting a dime. You're not family if you go through with this. I tell him, then I guess I never was. I slam the door. Now I'm getting emails from the county and the trust administrator asking for copies of all documents. Apparently my parents never officially closed the trust or notified everyone, which is a big no-no. I forward everything. Danielle's fiancé's parents start asking questions in the wedding group chat and I just post the trust clause and say, ask my parents. Then I leave the chat. Aunt Doris, who's never liked my mom, calls me and says, I'm glad someone finally stood up to them. This has been coming for years. I ask her if she remembers the trust details. She says, not really, but Granddad always wanted it fair. I thank her and hang up. Last thing, my mom tries to call. I don't answer. She leaves a voicemail, says, please, we didn't mean it like that. You're going to ruin everything. Just talk to us. We can make this right. I delete it. So, now the wedding is up in the air. Danielle's fiancé's parents are pissed. The property taxes are about to spike. And my parents can't even spin it to the family anymore because I put the receipts everywhere. Everyone's mad at me, but at least they're not pretending I'm invisible. I know some people will say this is petty or whatever, but honestly, you try being erased and see how chill you feel. I'm not done. This isn't about money. It's about not being treated like trash. They wanted to play favorites and got burned. Next update should be interesting. Just waiting to see who cracks first. Final update. So, here's how all of this actually went down. I wasn't even going to post again for a while, but Andiel, the amount of voicemails and texts I got this morning is next level. If you've ever wondered what happens when you stop playing the good kid and start actually making people face themselves, here you go. It started with a group chat lighting up at like 6 a.m., which is already a bad sign. My phone's blowing up and it's not even my parents that it's Danielle. And she's left 14 voicemails by noon. Not exaggerating, I counted She's freaking out saying, "What did you do? Dad won't stop asking for you. Please just pick up. You're going to ruin everything. Why are you doing this? Are you happy? Please just stop." And on and on. I just let them sit there. The weirdest thing is how quickly people switch up when they realize you're not bluffing. My parents always counted on me being too stubborn or too tired to actually fight back. Like my whole life, they figured I'd get pissed, say my piece, then drop it, and let Danielle get whatever she wanted because she was the one who listens. That was always the gig. She'd do the milestones. I'd get called the project guy or wasting space. My dad's thing was always, you can't finish what you start. You screw up everything you touch. My mom would just sigh and say, "Danielle actually tries, why can't you be more like her?" I used to think it was just parenting, but at some point they stopped seeing me as family and started seeing me as a joke. So yeah, I stopped playing after I filed for the trust accounting and the tax reassessment hit. Everything got awkward real fast. Turns out they never actually finished closing the trust, so legally nothing could be transferred. The county flagged the transfer, and now there's a pile of paperwork nobody wants to deal with. Danielle's fiancé's parents are suddenly a lot less enthusiastic about the wedding gift. My parents are getting calls from relatives asking what the hell happened because I made sure everyone saw the receipts. I got a couple emails from old family friends just is everything okay, which is honestly hilarious since they never cared before. The best part, if you want to call it that, was when I ran into my mom at the grocery. She was by the deli looking at her phone, and when she saw me, she just glared. I walked right past her. She tried to block my cart. I was being dramatic. Said, "Nobody wants this. Why can't you just let it go?" I told her, "You never wanted me to be family unless I was silent." She slapped the side of my cart and stormed off. I didn't even flinch. Danielle tried texting again, then switched to calling. I answered once just because I was tired of the notification. She was crying, saying, "You don't know how hard this is for me. Mom and Dad are fighting. The wedding might be off. How could you do this to us?" I told her, "I didn't do anything. You all did this when you decided one person mattered and the other didn't." She said, "You're so bitter. You're ruining everything." I said, "I'm not sorry," and hung up. Then I blocked her. I'm just done. My dad showed up at my place one last time. I opened the door. He tried to push his way in. I blocked him. He shouted, "You've ruined our family. You're going to regret this." I told him, "You already ruined it. You just thought I'd never notice." He shoved it back and slammed it. That was it. After that, it was just silence. No more group chat. No more invites. My Aunt Doris texted said, "Good for you. They needed to be taken down a peg." Philip sent me a meme about family drama speedruns. Most people just went quiet. I don't care. I'm not looking for a trophy or some fake apology. The fallout? Weddings postponed. Danielle's fiancé's family is demanding all the paperwork before they move forward. The county's got my parents on the hook for back taxes and possible penalties because they tried to skip the rules. Everyone knows what happened and nobody's pretending anymore. My parents keep leaving voicemails. All the classics. "Please talk to us. We didn't mean it like that. We just wanted the best for everyone. Can't we start over?" No, I'm not interested. The thing is, I'm not even mad anymore. I'm not happy either. Just done. I got my point across. I didn't forgive. I didn't forget. I didn't heal. I just made sure the people who tried to erase me had to live with the mess they make. If they want to clean it up, that's on them. So, yeah, sometimes you don't get a neat ending. Sometimes you just get the truth out in the open, and that's enough. If you're reading this and you're the invisible kid in your family, trust me, you're a lot harder to erase than they.